minutes.
Our team is covering all angles tonight, from how we're fighting the virus here in Northeast Ohio to how we compare to other states. Plus, COVID cancels the Ohio State-Maryland game this weekend. We'll tell you if the game will happen at all this season.
And success in the face of defeat, overcoming the career challenges of the pandemic to reinvent yourself. One truly inspiring turnaround. What's new starts now.
And now, live from WKYC Studios, this is What's New.
Well, we are keeping an eye south of us on Columbus as the state awaits Governor DeWine's address this evening. You know, Jay, usually he has his daily briefings at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Yesterday, he said he was going to take the day off and then do a primetime 5:30 p.m. address to the entire state this evening. So we are watching for that to begin. We will bring it to you as soon as the governor starts speaking. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this evening. I'm Betsy Kling alongside Jay Crawford, and this is What's New.
Yes, it is. Good Wednesday afternoon to you. It is Wednesday, and Betsy, you mentioned it. Normally the governor does Tuesday, Thursday, and 2 o'clock, but he wants more eyeballs on this messaging. That's why he's moved it to Wednesday, and that's also why it's coming at 5:30. More people are home from work. And obviously, all of this is centered around the fact that our cases here in Ohio aren't just going up incrementally. They are skyrocketing. And Betsy, with each new day, there is more alarm around these numbers. There is no break in sight.
Yeah, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, those numbers are released. You check on it and go, oh, it's another bad number. And the primetime address just totally shows how concerned the governor's administration is. Today, 5,874 new cases were reported in the state. That's the second highest daily case total since the pandemic began. And by the way, yesterday's whopping more than 6,500 cases was the record for the entire pandemic. So this is back-to-back major days. The 21-day average is now creeping even higher, more than 3,700 cases a day in Ohio.
Betsy, our percent of positive tests jumped all the way up to 11.9% today. That's the highest daily positivity rate that we have seen since 12.9%, and that came way back on April 22nd. And remember, back then, we were only testing those that were sick. Hospitalizations becoming a major concern now as we creep up another 132 patients statewide, and now we are dangerously close to having 3,000 COVID-19 patients in Ohio hospitals also. And this is really troubling. Our 76 deaths reported today, that is our second highest single-day death count, as it now appears that lagging death number has caught up with that huge spike in cases. We've been telling you all along, that number usually about 3 to 4 weeks behind the big increase in cases. So we're there. And these indicators all beg one very simple question, Betsy. How did we get to where we are today on November 11th?
It's something a lot of us are asking each other today, and senior health correspondent Monica Robbins is going to join us now to help us sort it all out. Monica, these numbers are just staggering. This is where we never wanted to be. We thought we had it licked in the summer, and now here we go.
Plain and simple, Bets, we dropped our guard. I know a lot of us have a ton of COVID fatigue. I'm right with all of you, but we really have to give this virus the respect it deserves.
History has shown us that we see cases spike after holidays or events. We know funerals and weddings have been the cause of many cluster jumps. Let's go back to late August. College students went back to school. Many crowded bars and had house parties. Then we had Labor Day weekend. By mid-September, we started to see cases rising, and they haven't stopped. The cases were predominantly young people, who in turn spread it to older folks. People started expanding their bubbles and letting others in. And when the weather got cold, they kept gatherings indoors, which made spread easier if no masks or distancing were practiced. Despite the warnings and the governor's pleas, people continued to have those small gatherings. After all, football season started. Then came Halloween parties, and the spread just continued to where we are now. But unfortunately, those younger people continue to spread it to the more vulnerable, and that's who's now filling up hospital beds.
And what's even more concerning now is that our frontline workers are being infected and impacted. Cleveland Clinic said they had 300 employees get COVID. Lorain County had firefighters and police officers get infected. But the ripple effect is all the others who had to go into quarantine because of exposure. We need these people on the front lines, especially now as our cases are skyrocketing and maintaining record levels. It is time to go back to the Zoom happy hours, folks, and limit your personal exposure to only those you live with. And remember, masks and distancing work. And with Thanksgiving coming, if you want your vulnerable relatives to join you next year, you got to protect them this year. I don't know how much easier I can say it, Bets, but that's pretty much the way it is.
We just keep saying it. Now, everybody just has to believe it. That's kind of the big thing now. And, Governor DeWine is certainly keeping a close eye on this. We have a little picture of the State House down there in that little box. We are expecting his address at 5:30. What do you think he's going to say today?
Well, I would not be surprised to hear him talk about allowing hospitals to suspend elective procedures, again, like they did in the spring, to prepare for that surge in cases and the more hospital beds being used. And remember, we're not just dealing with COVID. Now, we also have flu we got to deal with, too, because that's coming in. And also, I'm hoping to hear about a plan for vaccine distribution. My sources are telling me, like 5 vaccines will be targeted to hospitals and first responders because those vaccines need to be put free storage that hospitals have. The next one's coming likely from Johnson & Johnson, which is the 1 dose, and AstraZeneca are refrigerated, so they're better for the general population, and likely we'll see those probably around April.
All right. Well, we're going to have to sort all out, what the differences is or the similarities between all of these various vaccines. I think everybody just kind of we just need one, but it's got to be the right one. And so as time goes on, we'll get that all sorted out for everybody, certainly. But waiting on Governor DeWine going to be a big deal. Thanks so much, Monica. Great insight as usual. And coming up after the governor's address at 6, Metro Health President and CEO Dr. Akram Boutros will join us live. He's going to offer his analysis and insight into what the governor has to say. And again, that is tonight at 6 on What Matters Most. Jay.
Betsy, Monica mentioned all of those events likely triggering these spikes, not mentioned fans back at sporting events. Remember, one of the first super spreader events worldwide was that soccer match between cities in Italy and France. I'm just wondering if those fans in stands isn't also contributing to this, certainly coincidental. Okay, now, we decided tonight, we usually try to give you context with these numbers, but we're throwing numbers at you every single night on these key data points as far as the coronavirus fight goes here in Ohio. But we wanted to give you a little extra context tonight. How is Ohio doing against our neighboring states? Brandon Simmons has been living in those numbers all day long, and he joins us now. Brandon, good Wednesday afternoon to you. How do we stack up against Michigan, Indiana, PA, and the likes?
Well, Jay, as you know, first off, I'll be quite honest with you. There is so much data out there about coronavirus, and it all tells a different story depending on how you interpret it, whether you look at total cases in a day, rolling averages. You understand this stuff. So I decided to focus on one thing that we've harped on many times, and that's positivity rate. And we're going to look at the 7-day average. Now, this helps us ignore some of those anomalies that may be out there. Now, remember, this is the percentage of tests that come back positive. So let's look at Ohio. Our 7-day average sits at 9.9%. Head east to Pennsylvania, the number gets a little lower at 7.2%. But as you go west, it becomes a problem. Indiana and Illinois at 11 and 12% respectively. But here's where things get really, really scary. Look at the more rural states like Missouri, Kansas, and Iowa. The numbers grow exponentially at that point. Missouri at 26% almost, Kansas up at 41%, and Iowa the worst with a 7-day average of 49.2%. That means 1 out of every 2 people tested comes back positive. Now, states like South Dakota have also been above 50% at times, although they don't average that high. Now, what do all of these numbers mean? Of course, in Iowa, it means their hospitals are filling up quickly, more people in the ICU. Death rates are also going up, and they've also had more than 100 outbreaks in long-term care facilities. So what I'm trying to say is Ohio isn't as bad as they are, but we can definitely get to that point. So we have to make sure we take precautions to keep this virus, Jay, at bay. Now, one more thing that may be contributing to rising cases to the west, of course, is they've already started to get that really cold weather that keeps people indoors, keep them from going outside where things can be a little bit better, where you can practice social distancing. But we have to know that winter's headed our way, and we have to be extra careful to make sure things don't get that bad, as we've been talking about over and over.
Yeah, it might be too late for that. When you take a look at the positivity rate, Brandon, this is stunning. 11.9% today as we sit here on November 11th. I went back 1 month ago just to show you how fast this thing has spiraled out of control. 1 month ago, our positivity rate was under 4%. 3.7%. So in the span of 1 month, we've jumped 9 percentage points. I had a healthcare provider tell me this afternoon, it's literally like trying to battle a forest fire with a single garden hose. This thing spreads quickly and it gets out of control. That's why we have to listen carefully to what the governor says at 5:30 and follow his guidelines. Brandon Simmons, thank you very much.
We need everybody to participate.
Absolutely. Brandon, thanks. All right now it is 9 minutes past the top of the hour. Time to see what else is making headlines on this Wednesday evening. And for that, we go to the newsroom and say hello to Laura Queso. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Jay, let's get to it. Both President Donald Trump and President-elect Joe Biden are honoring our servicemen and women this Veterans Day. President Trump making his first public appearance since Joe Biden was projected the winner of the presidential election. The president and First Lady Melania attended the traditional Veterans Day observance at Arlington National Cemetery, where the president laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And in Philadelphia, President-elect Joe Biden and his wife Jill placing a wreath at the Korean War Memorial at Penn's Landing, where vets and Memorial Day ceremonies are held each year. Well, the population of Northeast Ohio grew by 1 early this morning after a police officer helped to deliver a baby boy on the side of the road. Richmond Heights police officer Jonathan Ross was on radar duty on Richmond Road when the father-to-be flagged him down, saying the mother was about to give birth. Officer Ross helped with the delivery until paramedics came to assist and then took them to the hospital. Of course, we want to say a big congrats to that new family and thank you to that officer too. Saturday's Ohio State college football game against Maryland has been canceled. You can blame COVID for it. 8 players for Maryland tested positive in the last week. That game will not be rescheduled. And one more thing, Jay, I want to go back to Veterans Day. I want to thank so many for their service who have given the ultimate sacrifice to protect and serve all of us.
Absolutely. We echo those sentiments. Laura, now the fear on this Ohio State story, they may end up being left out of the 14 playoff format for the national championship because this is a very real possibility. They've only played 3 games. With this one off the schedule, that leaves them with 4 remaining. I talked to a couple of voters earlier today, and they said that the sentiment is if Ohio State only plays 7 games, it'd be very difficult to put them into a 14 playoff at the end of the season, something we'll have to keep a very close eye on.
That's for sure.
Laura, thanks. We'll see you at 6. Next on What's New, our series, Your New Job. This week, this is a story you absolutely have to see. So inspirational. It's about a guy who lost his job, his home, he lost everything. Then he went to mowing lawns, and that led to a brand new career.
And the famous TV job that was supposed to go to Reba McEntire, you will not believe who took it instead. That's coming up in Pop Break.
And Matt Wentz, it looks like November has finally arrived by my calendar about 11 days late.
Yeah, Jay, it absolutely has. It's been nice while it lasted, right? We've got cooler air now, but I'll tell you what, we've got some nicer days ahead, and we are tracking a weekend storm system. I'll give you the details on that coming up.
Welcome back, everybody. We want to say thank you to all of our veterans in our lives. These are some photos shared by both you and our staff here at WKYC. Your service means the world to us. Thank you. Well, it's time for a new installment of our Your New Job segment. And today we have an incredible success story to share.
Betsy, it really is. It's about a man who lost his big, high-profile job, and he actually had to start over from scratch. It took years for him to find that new career, but he never gave up. Here's consumer investigator Danielle Serino with his inspirational tale.
I lost everything. I lost my home, I lost my family, and I couldn't tell where the ground, the stopped and the sky started.
That's a long fall for someone who was a well-known radio announcer for more than 2 decades until industry cutbacks.
Have you ever heard people say that if you find something you love and can do it for a living, you'll never work a day in your life?
Yeah.
I had that, and I lost it.
To survive, he delivered pizzas, mowed lawns, cleaned office buildings, sometimes all at once, while waiting for a response to one of the 3,000 resumes he said he sent.
It was just monstrously discouraging for years and years. And I thought, I used to be somebody, and now I'm just this, knucklehead who pushes a lawnmower.
And I think a lot of people, would say 3,000 resumes, I'm delivering pizza, screw this, I'm over it.
I think a lot of people do that. And the people that don't are the ones that get jobs. So go bag groceries and get paid $5 an hour, whatever you have to do. Get out of your house, meet people and ask questions, and you'll find that your network is bigger than you think it is.
Job coach Abby Kohut's right, because that's when a new idea took root for John, all from his job mowing lawns.
I just did research, and I stumbled across an organization called the International Society of Arboriculture, and I literally thought to myself, I bet arborists make more money than landscapers. I was desperate. I had already done anything for money. I started learning more, and I'm like, wow, I could become a certified arborist.
He started reading about trees, writing about trees, and more than 12 years after losing that radio gig, he's now an in-demand, board-certified master arborist, making a living like he used to.
2020 is all about survival, clearly. And the people that are going to do well are going to be the people that figure out how to come out of their world and reinvent.
If anything I could say to people that are going through this, that have lost something like this, it's not easy. It's not necessarily even a short-term process, but don't give up without a fight.
Abby has a website with thousands of job listings, networking groups, and career advice. It's on our website, WKYC.com. And if you have a success story you'd like to share, hit me up on Twitter at the address below or by email at dserino@WKYC.com. I'm Danielle Serino, 3 News.
Danielle, thanks. I love that graphic, cutting the tee off.
Yeah, that's
I
cool.
can do it. That's the positive attitude. Matt is in for weather. Matt, your weather word today in honor of Veterans Day is courage.
Courage. Awesome. Thank you so much. And Jay, I want to echo our sentiments on Veterans Day. Those are the finest men and women among us. So a heartfelt thank you from the Weather Center, at least, as well.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you what, I wish I could produce better weather results out there. It is certainly much chillier today. This is our reality check. Take a look at the cooler pocket of air over the Great Lakes right now. We're talking 20 to 30 degrees cooler than 24 hours ago, but it'll be short-lived. We'll be back into the 50s as we head towards the daytime tomorrow with some sunshine. But until then, we're falling from the 50s. We're already back into the 40s off towards the west. We've got that northwest wind kicking in, and we started in the 60s as expected, but those temps have been scaling back all day today. And you can see the core of that cool air up in the northern Great Lakes is actually heading away from us. This isn't a direct shot. So we're going to remain fairly seasonable over the next couple days. Doing some digging on the numbers, our coldest high temperature this season so far was 43 degrees back on November 2nd. So we really haven't had a really cold day yet. We've lucked out, especially over the last week. And I was looking at our averages. Our average first day in the 30s for highs was actually yesterday. So we're due for 30-degree high temperatures. Yesterday was actually the first day that we averaged our first accumulating snowfall around here as well. So we have not seen that yet, only a trace so far. So it hasn't been that bad, right? There goes the rain and the clouds. It's still cloudy out in our eastern counties. That will clear tonight. High pressure will take over the next 2 days. But boy, there's a big weather player down in the Gulf still. This will make landfall. This is Tropical Storm Eta, which continues to spin, now a week and a half old. This is going to bring flooding rains to Florida. Will make landfall as a tropical storm tonight, somewhere up near Cedar Key. That's north of the Tampa Bay area. For us locally, though, hope you have the courage to get on out and take that trash out tonight if it's garbage day tomorrow, because it's going to be chilly. We're back into the 30s and 40s tonight. Those clouds will clear. Expect wall-to-wall sunshine for the most part tomorrow. Perhaps a few lake effect clouds out east. That's about it. I think it'll be a beautiful afternoon. We'll make it into the 50s, and then tomorrow night settling back into the 30s with a few passing clouds working in here on Friday. Universal Windows Direct 7-day forecasts. Our eyes turn towards the weekend. That's when our next weather system arrives. It arrives Saturday with just some increasing clouds, perhaps a rainfall chance late Saturday, but the bulk of the rain will fall on Sunday with a warm-up and some wind. And then we drop back behind that. We turn to some lake effect rain and snow showers on Monday, Tuesday behind that. I don't have any 30s in the forecast, but I'll tell you what, we're coming darn close. And then later next week, it looks like another cooler shot. So 'tis the season for those cool spells, and we're certainly going to be dealing with one by this time next week.
That's right. We round the bend and head toward Thanksgiving. We need cool weather so Mom doesn't complain when the oven is on in the kitchen. That's the standing rule in our house. All right. Thanks so much, Matt. We'll check in with you again coming up. Well, you may think all the Hollywood celebrities are on Instagram, but just wait till you see the first thing one Harry Potter star did when he joined Instagram today.
A Harry Potter actor is way late on a major trend, but that's okay. We'll forgive him. Reba McEntire has turned down not one, but 2 jobs in Hollywood that just about anyone else would die for. And trying to replace man's best friend. Kiara Cotton has all the details in our Daily Pop Break.
Losing someone you love is never easy, but we can all get by with a little help from our friends. Actor Orlando Bloom has a new forever friend helping him to cope after losing his dog Mighty back in July. Meet Buddy, a dog that he's fostering. The 34-year-old shared a picture of his new pal on Instagram saying, "Nothing can replace Mighty Man, but fostering this little guy has really filled my heart. Maybe dogs really are a man's best friend." Can you imagine The Voice without Blake Shelton? It's hard to fathom, but getting a chair turn from Reba McEntire would be a good substitute. During a recent interview with Andy Cohen, she confirmed that she had been offered a role as an original coach, but when she turned it down, the spot went to fellow country singer Blake Shelton.
Because I don't think I'd ever be able to tell somebody that they're terrible or, go find another job or hope you like your nighttime job.
Now, Reba is no stranger to turning down big gigs. She also passed on Kathy Bates' role in the Oscar-winning film Titanic. Calling all Potterheads, we have an announcement. Rupert Grint is on the gram. The Harry Potter and Servant actor joined the social network on Monday with his first post saying, "Only 10 years late, but here I am." He also brought along a special guest for his debut. He introduced the world to his newborn baby girl, Wednesday. Weasley isn't the only Harry Potter star with a new addition at home. Jessica Cave, who played Lavender, and Scarlett Hefner, who played Pansy, both welcomed new additions earlier this year. We wish them all the best of luck and congratulations. Back to you guys.
Well, our Worth the Watch comes from the Only in Japan file. Japanese towns are using a robot wolf to scare away bears that have residents worried about their safety. It's called Monster Wolf, and it has red eyes and an infrared sensor to detect bears or other moving animals. It's programmed with more than 60 different sounds. That thing looks like Satan straight out of HE double hockey sticks. That is crazy. It can move its head and beams flashing light when it detects motion. Guess a scarecrow is a little too old-fashioned. That thing just looks wicked to me. And I gotta tell you, I could see kids going out there to try to set that thing off just to see what would happen.
Pretty high tech. I love the video of the bear seeing it and just hightailing it the heck out of there. I wonder if there's any scent, because you know how animals are. They operate on scent so much. I wonder if somehow they've got some sort of scent that it puts out as well.
I'd be like,
Pretty
shut
cool.
down nose. My eyes have seen enough. I'm out of here. Let's go.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, we are standing by for the governor's address at any moment now.
We're going to take you there live as soon as Governor Mike DeWine begins his address.
And now, live from WKYC Studios, this is What's New.
Well, thanks so much for staying with us, everybody. I'm Betsy Kling alongside Jay Crawford and the one and only Russ Mitchell, and we are waiting for Governor Mike DeWine to speak to us Ohioans about the coronavirus pandemic.
And Russ joins us now to help us tee up the coverage. Russ, we know that these numbers have been going in the wrong direction now for upwards of 3 weeks. I'm expecting the governor to say some pretty heavy stuff here in a little bit, maybe even add some new restrictions.
Well, you both remember back in July when he had one of these evening addresses, he really didn't say a whole lot. It was kind of a wag your finger sort of thing. Jay, you may be on target here. We are hearing that the governor is going to implement some type of zone system, which will be regard to hospitals and what they can do and what they can't do. We are told the governor is up at his home in Cedarville addressing the state. Let's listen in.
Regarding a coronavirus vaccine that Pfizer is developing. The first results from phase 3, the final research phase on their vaccine, show it to be very effective in preventing COVID-19. That's great news. This should give us all great hope. It could be here as early as December, and we will be ready. We will be ready to get it out just as soon as we receive it. We've been told that it will come in batches. In the first several months, our priority will be to get it out to protect the most vulnerable and to protect our essential health workers. We'll then be able to move to the general population. At some point after that, we hope to achieve significant immunity in Ohio. But tonight, I want to talk to you about what we do until then. We are now at the most crucial phase of this pandemic. We're in the midst of our third wave in Ohio. In the spring, as the virus first surged, we shut things down. The Ohioans did what they had to do. We flattened the curve, and we were able to open back up. In the summer, we got hit again. The virus was heaviest in our urban areas, and so some of our mayors and our Ohio Department of Health issued mask orders in these hot spots. Mask wearing in those areas went up dramatically, and as a result, cases dropped dramatically. We're now seeing a third spike, but this time, things are much different. Now, we had been warned that when it got colder and drier and people were indoors more, the virus would rise up again. It certainly has. This surge is much more intense, widespread, and dangerous. As of today, every single one of our 88 counties has a high rate of virus spread. And areas of our state that were previously untouched, our rural areas, are being hit especially hard. Let's look at the numbers. At the end of September, we were averaging under 1,000 cases per day. Today, we reported our second highest number of cases at nearly 5,900 cases. While yesterday, we reached the highest number yet of over 6,500 cases. Now, I know that some people say that the only reason we're seeing more cases is because we're doing more testing. Well, we are doing more testing, and we're very happy about it. But the fact is that while testing has not even doubled, cases have gone up almost 4 times. Let's talk about our fellow Ohioans who are in the hospital right now with COVID-19. During the spring and summer virus surges, the most COVID patients we ever had in the hospital at one time was a little over 1,100. Last week, we were at almost 2,000 COVID patients in our hospitals. And today, 1 week later, we are now approaching 3,000. We now also have a record number of patients in our intensive care units. A month ago, 240 patients with COVID were in the ICU receiving critical care. Tonight, more than 700 of our fellow Ohioans are in the ICU. We've learned throughout this pandemic that what happens today sometimes won't reveal its full impact for weeks. This is certainly true of hospitalizations, and sadly, it's also true of deaths, leaving us with the stark reality that we simply won't know the ultimate fate of individuals who are diagnosed today with COVID for weeks or even months. Now, despite great work by our medical personnel, improved treatments for COVID, too many of our fellow citizens are still dying. In the first week of October, 86 Ohioans died from COVID-19. With many more Ohioans testing positive for COVID today, we know that number will surely grow. And it already has. During the first week of November, 104 Ohioans died. 104 mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, sons, and daughters. 104 families left to mourn and grieve a loved one. To those families, please know that Ohio grieves with you. Now let's talk about our nurses, our doctors, and all those who care for COVID-19 patients. God bless them. Our hospitals are functioning right now, as if they were at the peak of the flu season in January. But unlike the flu, when hospital personnel know that cases will begin to drop and come to an end in the late winter and early spring, these new COVID cases are not trending down, and it's taking an enormous human toll on our healthcare workers. In the spring, we wanted to be sure we had enough personal protection equipment. That's what we worried about. We worried about ventilators, hospital space. Today, the question is whether or not we have enough people. Our healthcare workers are quite frankly exhausted. They've been running a marathon for 9 straight months. And with this new wave and the onset of flu season, it's like they're starting the race all over again. If we don't change this, we will not be able to provide appropriate care for all the Ohioans who need it. All the Ohioans who need it for COVID. And for all those Ohioans who require other emergency care, things such as accidents and strokes and heart attacks. Hospitals will again be forced to postpone important but less urgent care. Make no mistake, if nothing changes, this all could happen in just a few short weeks. Today, I was asked by our hospital leaders to confirm that Ohio remains in a state of emergency. I'm telling you tonight, it most certainly does. This state of emergency supports their ongoing efforts to make staffing adjustments in accordance with CDC guidance as they work to care for our rising number of COVID-19 hospital patients. Martin Luther King once said, and I quote, that every crisis has both its dangers and its opportunities. In this most dangerous phase of the pandemic, as Ohioans, we still have opportunities before us. We can control our fate. And the good news is that we don't have to search for the tools to fight back. They are ready at hand. We've used them effectively before, and we must use them effectively again. We got to get back to basics. Wearing a mask, maintaining at least 6 feet of distance from each other, washing our hands frequently, and not having parties and get-togethers in your house, and trying to get adequate fresh air into our homes, particularly as it's getting colder. What each Ohioan does in his or her own life impacts all of us. It impacts every community. It impacts every school, every nursing home, every hospital, every business. And the more people who get the virus, the more likely it will spread to all the places that we desperately want and need to keep open and operating. Just yesterday, I received a letter from a local school superintendent who was concerned about community spread in her community. She said, and I quote, that people don't seem to understand that while COVID exposures are occurring outside of the school setting, they are having a profound effect on our ability to keep our school open. Now, the simple truth is that your local school will not be able to stay open if it can't keep teachers in the classroom and bus drivers in buses. This virus threatens our ability also to keep our grandparents safe in nursing homes, our hospitals functioning, our businesses open, and our citizens working. We must do the basic and necessary things to protect those at the front lines. Our nurses, our doctors, our health personnel who are treating patients, our grocery store workers who are keeping our stores open, our teachers, our bus drivers, our child care workers who are helping our children. Let me tell you about Jen. Jen's a nurse at Ohio Health. During the start of the pandemic, she was on medical leave, courageously fighting breast cancer. Just as soon as she was medically cleared, Jen jumped right back into action and returned to work, first managing patient cases over the phone, and now caring directly for her patients. She wears a mask at all times. She stays home while not working in order to stay safe and to protect her elderly parents and her patients. And so as we wait for this vaccine, we have so much to protect. We can't surrender to this virus. We can't let it run wild until enough of us get the vaccine. It's advancing quickly and seeking victims in every community in Ohio. If you don't know any of its victims yet, sadly, I suspect you will. Throughout the pandemic, most people and most businesses in Ohio have done things right by wearing masks and ensuring that safety guidelines were strictly followed. And we're very grateful for that. It's those actions that kept the virus from spreading uncontrollably in the spring and the summer. Today, every Ohioan, though, lives in a county where there is a high incidence of the virus. Most retail businesses have done a good job providing a safe place for their employees to work and for their customers to shop. However, it is clear that there are some businesses where mask wearing is simply lacking. We know that masks work. They are the easiest, most cost-effective way to limit the spread of COVID-19. Every retail employee has the right to work in an environment that is as safe as can be, which means all customers must wear masks. Further, each Ohioan who goes out to shop, wherever they go, they have the right to know that every store they enter, every door they go into to shop will be safe, and the people they encounter in that store will all be wearing a mask. Our mask order was issued on July 23rd, and in fact says just that. Today, we will reissue that order with 3 additional provisions. 1, each business will be required to post a face covering requirement sign at all public entrances to the store. 2, each store will be responsible for ensuring that customers and employees are wearing masks. And 3, we are forming a new retail compliance unit comprised of agents led by the Bureau of Workers' Compensation. They will be inspecting to ensure compliance of that mask order. A first violation of this order will bring about a written warning, but a second violation will bring about closure of the store for up to 24 hours. We must do this. We must do this to protect our frontline workers. And now let me tell you about Ashley. Ashley is a meat and seafood specialist for Kroger in Columbus. She's been with Kroger for 5 years. Ashley has severe asthma, Ashley has a chronic lung condition. She's an only child, only grandchild. And because many of her immediate family members have compromised immune systems, she has not visited her parents and grandparents since March. We need to follow the safety guidelines so that she can stay well and see her family again soon. As we implement the new mask order, it's essential that we also remember the existing orders that are already in place to slow the spread of the virus. In April, we issued an order to limit gatherings of more than 10 people. That limit has been and still is very much in effect. Now, this applies to public events and to private gatherings. Despite this order, we have seen rampant spread of the virus as a result of banquets, wedding receptions, and social gatherings following funerals. We have seen great tragedy associated with some of these events. Now, it's not the ceremonies causing the problem, it's the party afterward. So to address this, we will be issuing a new order in the next few days that will place significant new restrictions on these social activities. Specifically, open congregate areas can no longer be open. The order also requires everyone to be seated, everyone to wear a mask, unless they are actively consuming food or drinks. And the order prohibits things such as dancing and games. Now let's turn to our bars, our restaurants, our fitness centers. If the current trend continues and cases keep increasing, we will be forced to close restaurants, bars, and fitness centers. We will look at this 1 week from tomorrow. I'm very well aware of the burden that this will place on employees. I'm well aware of the burden this places on the owners. But these are places, candidly, where it's difficult or impossible to maintain mask wearing, which we know now is the chief way of slowing this virus. Let me turn now to our schools. We must wear our masks to keep our kids in school. Our K through 12 schools are doing a phenomenal job. I thank them. I thank everyone in the schools. I believe that most children are simply better off in school than learning remotely. However, as the increasing surge threatens school districts' ability to keep teachers in the classroom, some schools are starting to shift to virtual learning. We must do everything in our power to slow this virus down so our kids can stay in school. It is up to each and every one of us. What you do in the community, what we all do in the community, impacts whether our kids will be able to stay in school. Because no matter how good the schools are, they cannot overcome widespread COVID in the community. It will get into the schools. Let's turn to our colleges. I want to thank our colleges, our universities, for agreeing to not return to in-person classes after Thanksgiving, but to finish the semester remotely. The vast majority of schools have made this decision. And I also want to thank them for reducing the number of students on campus. That has made a significant difference in helping keep the cases lower and our campuses safer. But unless we dramatically slow the community spread of this virus, our higher educational institutions in Ohio may have to remain virtual when school opens in January. With widespread COVID, they may have no choice. Again, it's up to us. My friends, my fellow Ohioans, I know you're tired. I'm tired of all this COVID. I know you're tired. I know you're weary. I know you want this to be over. But in words often attributed to Winston Churchill during one of the most dangerous and darkest times of World War II, when you're going through hell, keep going. And so tonight, I ask you, keep going. Recommit to your individual efforts to stay safe, because what you do in your private lives affects everyone. Please, please, don't host that birthday party or that baby shower or that kid's sleepover or that get-together to watch the football game. Don't attend the gatherings which you're invited to. Stay home when you can. Work from home if you can. And as we approach the upcoming Thanksgiving Day holiday, please remember that when someone you don't live with, not in your household, enters your bubble, it puts everyone you live with at risk. Even our family and our closest friends can bring COVID into our homes. They don't do it intentionally, but it happens when they don't know that they have the virus. And we just need to avoid any unnecessary and additional risk right now. If you're going to be with people who don't live in your home, if you feel there is something you just have to do, please make sure everyone is at least wearing a mask. It matters. Today's Veterans Day. We honor and remember all our men and women who have served our country. They understand what it means to serve a cause greater than themselves. This pandemic gives each of us the chance to serve a higher cause, a more noble purpose than just ourselves. None of us could easily forgive ourselves if we learned that a loved one got the virus because we had it and we didn't know it. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth the chance. My fellow Ohioans, few times in our lives will we ever be able to do something or refrain from doing something that will or can save a life. This is one of those rare times. Throughout our country's history, each generation has faced unique challenges. In generations gone by, Americans have been asked to lay down their lives that our nation, our country, might live, that we might live in freedom. Today, we all must do something far less dramatic, but very important. Wear a mask. Wear a mask that your friends, neighbors, and family members might live. All of our living generations are facing the same challenge in this country at this moment, at the same time. Ohioans have not faced such a collective challenge in 100 years. And whether you're 5 or 15, 20, 50, 80, whatever your age, you're facing this same challenge and have the same opportunities. On Sunday, Fran and I are blessed with a new baby granddaughter. And a grandson is due any day now. Each one of us has our own reasons why we want to be here when this horrible virus is over. And when we make that decision, when we decide whether or not to put on that mask, we should remember all those things that we really want to live for. All the world's great religions have their own version of what most of us learned as children as the golden rule. Treat others as we wish to be treated. Now, whether you were raised in a religious household or not, and whether you adhere to religious teachings or not, all of our most revered teachings are based really on the principle of believing in and working for something bigger than ourselves. It's a common good. It's the love for our fellow man. It's our obligation to our fellow man. And there's no higher purpose than to work for that common good. Each of us has a moral obligation to do our part. And I believe each one of us will do this. Our beautiful Ohio state seal depicts the sun shining brightly over Mount Logan in Ross County. That rising sun holds the promise that the light is coming, the dawn is near, and we will together get through this because we are Ohioans. Thank you very much. God bless you. I hope you have a good evening.
Governor Mike DeWine speaking from the State House. We've been watching that. Russ Mitchell along with Jay Crawford and Betsy Kling. It is now 5:55 on this Wednesday afternoon. The governor laying down some of the strongest language in months as regards to the coronavirus. Among other things, he reiterated that we remain in a state of emergency. He also laid the hammer down on businesses, saying some businesses are being good about having customers wear masks, others have not. Therefore, a new order will be issued, which will force businesses to put up signs saying you have to wear a mask when you come in. That business owner will be responsible for enforcing that. Also, the state is establishing a retail compliance unit which will monitor this. And the first offense for a store owner, if they are found in offense, it will be a warning. The second offense, possibly 24 hours closure. Also, he also talked about bars and restaurants. And Betsy and Jay, we've been talking about this for a while. This was probably one of the strongest things he said. He talked about this trend, these numbers going up. And if that continues in a week from now, they're going to reissue this or look at this again. And perhaps bars, restaurants, and gyms could see some orders as well.
Yeah, that coming down a week from today, they're going to revisit that topic. Also, another thing that the governor noted is that there will be new restrictions released within the next few days on what he's calling social activities. That would be group events like weddings and funerals. He's not so concerned about the ceremonies, but it is the after party, the wake, the reception, and they are going to be putting restrictions on that. So this, of course, would bring banquet centers and event centers back into where they are facing more cuts, more shutdowns in lieu of that. That will be a new order. And again, he said that will be coming in the next few days.
Russ, I'm not sure if you heard it. I detected it for sure. A heightened sense of urgency in the governor's voice and his inflection, his address. And you mentioned now the sanctions that are waiting for these businesses. Before, it was always discussed, how do you possibly police this mask ordinance? Well, now it's on the businesses themselves, and they are first hit with that written warning and then a 24-hour closure. And he used, once again, we've heard this several times from others, that Winston Churchill, a very famous quote, when you're going through hell, keep going. And he mentioned that that's kind of what we're doing right now. No one is happy with where we are, but I think the nail he drove home that he had to was the fact that we have all collectively let down our guard. I was thinking today on the drive to work, how many cars I see on the road today compared to April.
Right.
And that's our spread situation as well.
Yeah, the governor definitely pulling at all the stops. You mentioned Winston Churchill. He also quoted Martin Luther King, quoted from the Bible as well. Yeah. He mentioned the dawn on the way. He said that things are going to get better, but we better get our acts together. Mentioned college kids coming home, mentioned schools, all those kind of things. So a lot to unpack here. We're going to do it in just a moment.
All right, well, we're going to turn things over to you and